Good morning. I'm Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation magazine and AsianAviation.com. Welcome to the latest in conversation, the first one of 2022, sponsored by Metrojet of Hong Kong. Today we are speaking again with Sumesh Patel. He's the president for Asia-Pacific of SITA. Sumesh, welcome to In Conversation. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you, Matt. Nice to see you again.
Yep, good to see you. Happy New Year. If I haven't told you that. Happy Year of the Tiger as well, since we're still kind of at the tail end of Lunar New Year. I was looking at my calendar. The last time we spoke was in July 2021. Things have changed a bit. Vaccines have really been rolled out around the world in most places, hopefully. Quarantines are being cut in some places, except for places like China or Hong Kong. From your spot at SITA here in Asia Pacific, give us an idea of what you're seeing in the industry overall, and then we'll talk about the tech side of things in a little bit.
Okay. So, those of us who don't know us well, SITA is an integral part of the air transport industry. We are fully owned by and dedicated to the airlines and airports around the world. We serve around 1,000 airports globally. Almost every airline in the world uses some or the other services from SITA, and we also serve around 78 governments. Now, if we look at your question, Matt, I feel that we are well past the deepest point of the crisis. In many ways, the pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation to tackle the immediate challenges around health, automated passenger journey, and sustainability. I would say airline and airports basically need flexibility to scale their operations up and down due to the volatility, right? With passenger volumes and then, of course, with an issue, it will be there for some time. In addition, about making it affordable, it's key because of the airports and for airports and airlines, they're still recovering from the pandemic. The impact of COVID-19, based on the latest update, the airline industry has lost almost about 51.8 billion in 2021, and the airports around 111 billion. So, according to ACI, so both put together, our industry still lost about 160 billion in 2021. But overall, we see that our industry is on path of recovery in 2022 and beyond.
But and that's interesting. I mean, like I said, places like Cambodia, they've completely reopened. Thailand's talking about reopening as well. These are obviously heavily influenced by the tourism industry, which that's their big money makers for those two countries. New Zealand had some news today that they were going to start relaxing some border restrictions as well. We talked about this again back in July, and we might as well start getting into the technology, talk about automation, digital health. You came out with a recent technology trends report that talks about this, talks about biometrics, things like that. My question is, and I'm going to skip around a little bit, my question is about standards, because, how many years ago was this? 40 years ago, when I started traveling internationally, I had a little yellow card that was approved by the World Health Organization and recognized around the world by every border agent, every immigration officer, everything. It was the carte jaune, the yellow card, the health card. It showed my hepatitis vaccination, my yellow fever vaccination, et cetera, et cetera. So it was one card. But now we've got, I don't know how many digital health applications that are out there that show testing status, vaccination status, things like that. But there's something, there's more than a dozen. I know, I counted them last time. And you've got IATA's travel pass. Why can't we just have one pass?
Okay, so Matt, clearly, despite the severe impact of COVID-19 on revenues and IT budgets, many airlines and airports are still strongly committed to their spend on technology. What is clear is, from this year's Airline IT Insight, is that the pandemic has helped accelerate investment in digitization. With strong focus, I would say, a streamlining on passenger journey, air transport industry, look to ensure their long-term growth and success in the post-pandemic era. And 85% of the airline and 81% of the airport airline CEOs expect their IT spend in absolute value to remain stable or grow in 2022. Now, coming back to your question in terms of number of health passes, right? So as I've said before, government needs to take a layered approach to border management, starting well in advance of travel to deliver the most effective results. If they can identify at-risk passengers and limit their travel, this will help airport and airlines to relax measures to lower risk passenger at the airport. I would say one of the most pressing demand on airline during the recovery period is developing more efficient ways to verify passenger health certificate, right, as you rightly said. This is to avoid basically the congestion at the airport and improve the passenger experience. And most of the airlines, I think during 2021, and say about 81%, had restored to performing manual verification. This only not created challenges for the airline themselves, but also for us as a passenger, right? So when we arrive at the airport, do we have all the documents we needed? We are nervous until we get a boarding pass issued, and even to the gate, we don't know someone might come up. By the way, this document is missing. Can I see it again? Right? So as you rightly said, there are a number of health passes schemes. But what we are trying to do at SITA is building a platform which can enable interoperability of these various passes, right? And some of the proof of concept, I can say, it's really at the stage where all of these is coming along because all of us are learning in terms of the new technology, having standards. So, we are running a number of proofs of concept and pilot projects, and I can share, one or two. One is, we've developed Aruba Health app, which basically, it helps to share the digital trusted traveler credentials. So, this is an innovation which we did using the digitalized and decentralized identity and also the blockchain as a single source of truth where people can trust. And also, if you look at it in Middle East, right? So, simply we partnered with them to trial the Health Protect linking the APP, right? So Advanced Passenger Processing System, which is already in place for many, many years to basically, review the blacklist, go, no go, denying the boarding the passenger at the source. So now we are using the same technology to have health included as part of that. So you don't reinvent the wheel all over again. And in fact, we last year in November, we launched our SITA's Digital Travel Declaration, which we are offering free of charge to help government speed up the recovery. So, getting some standards. So rather than having and developing new solutions, what we are doing is trying to build a platform which can help interoperability of all these various passes.
Well, hopefully they'll get some standards soon, and everybody will agree. I know what you're talking about, printing out all the documents. My wife traveled to the U.S. and to France, and then came back to Singapore, and I think I killed 2 or 3 trees trying to print out everything for France and for the U.S. and for Singapore. Even Singapore, which is a smart city. We still had to print out a lot of documents, which was amazing to me. Anyway, let's talk about keep on the tech side of things with automation. I want to ask too. I always like to follow the money. I mean, you were talking earlier about airports and airlines and how the industry's lost hundreds of billions of dollars. Where are airports, for example? Where are they finding the money to invest in this technology? Because if you look at Changi here in Singapore, for example, they've closed down Terminal 4. I think they've got Terminal 2 that's closed. Traffic is still 90% down because it's international traffic. Terminal 5 has been put on hold indefinitely. Does the airport industry, do your members, do they have the money to make these technology investments?
They are going through a difficult times, but I would say technology is certainly helping them to deal with the current challenges. So that is the reason why it is really high on their agenda. And clearly, what we are also working with the air transport industry to help them reuse their investments, right? So clearly, if we ask them to go and invest and replace everything what they've invested in, it's almost not possible in current times. So we are working with the airlines and airports to help them reuse their investments. To give you an example, so for example, when we talk about biometrics, so when we implement biometrics, you need the cameras and firstly the kiosk where you verify your digital credentials. And then when you go for a check-in, you need kiosk or the check-in desk having cameras to walk you through step by step. So now, with the current investment, what they have done, what we are trying to use is to say, just install an airport on a check-in desk or a camera and just use a pod to scan yourself. So you don't need to replace the entire check-in desk with a biometric enabled one. So the existing investment can certainly be utilized to make sure that you can walk through and implement the new technology as you go along.
Okay. Quick question, and then we're going to have to take a break for just a second. In the Tech Trend Report, you also talked about sustainability. It's a big buzzword for the aviation industry for the past several years. It's been going on. I think airports have actually done a pretty good job of going green, but I think they probably have an easier time of it because they have fixed facilities that are not going anywhere, so they can install solar. It's easier for them to electrify the vehicles. They can work on waste management. The restaurants at the terminals can work on food wastage and packaging and things like that. Where you sit, how is the sustainable action going? And then let's talk about Asia-Pacific a little bit.
So clearly, I think, as you rightly said, sustainability remains high on the agenda for airports, right? And with the focus of reducing scope 1 and 2 emissions. And most of the airports have implemented sustainability initiatives such as building airport management infrastructure, green spaces, use of natural lights, renewable energy, and of course, widely available recycling points and so on and so forth, right? And not only for I would say for the airports, but, airlines too are increasing their priority in making use of, new IT technologies to help them become more sustainable. For example, they're using flight path optimization to reduce fuel burn, right? So sustainability has become an important consideration. If I say at SITA, we are certified carbon neutral company, and we have reported environmental, economic, and social performance at the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI. And there are a number of solutions that are available to help our industry towards sustainable aviation, right? So, for example, reduce fuel burn and associated emissions through enabling more direct and efficient flight paths, managing disruptions. The other one is tracking and prioritizing the environmental KPIs, basically by enhancing runway management and optimizing operations. The third could be contributing to the paperless journey using automation at every step of the point, and also airports, enabling them to the net zero emission. If we now look at Asia-Pacific, clearly, Asia-Pacific is not behind, right? So the airlines and airports are continuing their push towards digitization to support operation efficiencies and also streamlining the passenger journeys. And this in addition to catering to the health and security concerns. So I would say sustainability is certainly attracting a bigger share of technology spend. As both airports and airlines, they aim to reduce their carbon footprint and make their operations more environmentally sustainable.
Okay, Sumesh, we need to take a quick break here to hear a word from our sponsor, Metrojet of Hong Kong. We'll be right back after this.
We're going to have the crown jewels of Asia, and I promise you we're going to have the nicest and busiest business aviation hangar in the region.
And we're back. We're talking to Sumesh Patel. He's president for Asia-Pacific of SITA. Sumesh, the report that we've been talking about, your technology trend report, it talked about being ready. Airports, the industry needs to be ready for a post-pandemic boom. I think we've seen some sort of mini booms in certain places. The United States, domestic travel is actually, I think, has come back in a fairly robust manner. To the point that we've seen some problems where we've had staffing problems, whether it's pilots or whether it's flight crew, flight attendants, or even people on the ground with the Omicron wave. A lot of people have been getting sick, so they call in sick, which messes up the schedules for everybody, because if a crew misses a deadhead flight from point A to point B, then the flight that they were going to catch at point B is going to be canceled or delayed. We've seen pilots here in Cathay Pacific that are just worn out from the quarantines, and they're leaving in droves. I think the last number I saw was something like 400. Could be on the way out or have left. I don't know if it's that many or not. I have to check that figure. How is the industry... and of course, I know you're going to say technology, but how is the industry going to cope with any kind of boom when more borders are relaxed, more quarantines are relaxed? If Hong Kong relaxes its quarantine further, people are going to want to go to Hong Kong. How is the industry going to deal with that?
So as you rightly said, passenger traffic is certainly recovering, but it still lags behind the rebound in the global economy, right? So there's still, for us, there's a space for us to really recover in terms of our traffic. And domestic and regional travel is recovering faster, and it's a known fact compared to the international travel because of the restrictions which slow down the international recovery. In past 2 years, and we have seen it, right? So domestic travel rebounds much faster, and we have seen peaks even closer to 2019 levels. And you would say, yeah, the technology certainly helps, but what else? So we would say, in addition to the technology, and technology, why it is, really key, is it helps to deal with the operational challenges also, right? So even look at the rostering, looking at the resources, how we can optimize. So there are various technologies that help to deal with these current challenges. And we are likely to see that regional airports are also, because they are experiencing the capacity constraint, are also demanding the similar technologies which we used to have, or which are implemented for the international travel across the travel system. I would say, and the travel is not just, between the air, but what we are really seeing is that among the airport, large and small, this is also extended beyond air to rail and maritime, right? So as the travel becomes more connected and intermodal, having the unified digital system that, simplify the passenger journey across the land, sea, and air will become increasingly more important. And again, automation and digitization helps the immediate pandemic and the recovery requirement. Because if we, as you rightly said, if the pilots are not there, you need to reschedule the passengers for onto a different flight. You need a technology to help them. If there are resources not available at the airport or at the resources, and they are hit with unfortunately with COVID, and the resources are down, you need to reassign certain resources which are on leave, or reassign to the right function or the right work they need to do. So certainly, technology is certainly key to help deal with these challenges.
Okay. Sumesh, I'm going to combine sort of two questions into one, where I don't want to take too much of your time today, but first part of the question is privacy concerns. It's not really a concern for me, because I think Google and Facebook probably know more about me than anybody. So if I'm going through the airport and I'm using biometrics or something like that, I'm not really concerned about privacy that much. But there will be people out there who say, "Oh, I don't want my information stored. They're gonna have my retina print, and I worry about that." And secondly, is on automation again. I know it's inevitable that it's going to increase, But at what point does it become too much? I mean, I still like talking to people and dealing with people, but passengers now, I mean, they check themselves in online, they print their own bag tags. If the biometrics come around like we think they will, you're going to check in, scan your face, and go through. And basically, the passengers, we're putting all of this onto the passengers to the point that they're going to do everything except fly the plane. And I joke about that, but it's more and more headed that direction where we're taking people out of the loop at the airport. And I think at some point, is there a concern that at some point that automation is going to be too much?
So maybe if I take your first question, right? So I believe not only for you, but it is true for us all, right? So sometimes you may forget what you really want, but your social media, when you're online, they will tell you what actually you need. You need it or you don't need it, but they'll remind you what you need, right? So clearly, no doubt that biometric technology improves the passenger journey. Basically by moving passenger through to the airport more quickly and securely, right? So, and passengers also enjoy the speed of passing through the checkpoints or across the borders and are willing to present their biometrics instead of their passport or boarding pass for safe, contactless, I would say, the overall airport experience. Having said that, the technology has certainly evolved, right? So, and personally for us, like at SITA, we are very conscious of the need for transparency in the use of data, which of course respects the data privacy for your passengers as you, right? And we adhere to the ethics charter for SITA at borders. And I would say that, like us, all the other partners who are in this industry, there are global standards in use of biometrics, which, we adhere to and everyone adheres to, right? So for example, if you're taking a flight, you have created a single token, right? So your soft token at the check-in kiosk. And when you board the flight, they don't retain it beyond that, right? So they will delete the data. So you actually know what data is captured, for what it is going to be used, and for how long it is going to be stored. So then you're more confident to share that data with, while you're going to the airport. So clearly, there are global standards in the use of biometrics and that, which we are adhering to. And I would say as a next step, this will certainly evolve. And at SITA, we are exploring an opportunity of self-sovereign identity, right? Because in the future, this may allow passengers like you to move from holding your universally accepted passport or a boarding pass. Instead of that, have a verifiable digital ID. So the world is changing, and that will certainly happen moving forward. Now, coming back to your second question, right? Can there be too much of automation, or is there too much of automation? So I would say the pandemic has certainly shifted the aviation needs. Digitization is core. And basically that is putting us as a passenger in control. And I would say not only in aviation, but automation and digitization has become part of our life, right? Be it banking, ordering a food delivery, shopping. It's really hard to live our day-to-day life until we adopt the new ways of working. And I would say I'm amazed to see not only the Gen Z or millennials, but even boomers like our parents adopting the technology much faster and, dealing with the mobile phones and doing a lot of things online. And certainly, mobile is one of the key. And as we say in SITA, mobile is a remote control. Much what you as a passenger need to do to accomplish your travel, you can do that through your mobile even before arriving at the airport. And the other area which we spoke about is, of course, your face is your boarding pass, right, using biometrics. And then this has helped, one of the examples is like when we implemented this in BCIA, BCIA was able to process 400 passengers and they boarded in less than about 20 minutes. So certainly we can see the benefits of the technology.
Okay. Last kind of the last question, but let's talk about the future, which we all want to be able to predict the future. I would like to get today's lottery numbers, but that's not going to happen. Barring some new variant with a cool Star Trek name like Omicron variant, 6 months from now, a year from now, am I going to be able to get on a plane and fly internationally without killing 2 trees to print out all the documents? Or, am I still going to, a year from now, am I still going to be forced to show my vaccination status and all of that? Or is it going to be easier? Who knows?
Yeah, Matt, I wish I had a crystal ball, right? But of course, Omicron has taught us new things, right? So people have started living with it and dealing with the virus. We see our industries coming back much faster than what we experienced for Delta, for example. So clearly, the regions in Europe and North America has opened the borders much faster. And in Asia also, we are seeing a lot of change, and especially where we live, right? In Singapore, the things have really changed versus mid last year when we spoke last in July, right? So it was completely locked down versus now new ways of living it. The focus, I would say, the big shift in our approach in opening borders is looking at more and more frictionless passenger experience, right? A more resilient, efficient operation and sustainability. And and I would say yes, the biometric and digital health credentials will certainly help save trees.
I hope so. Sumesh Patel, President of Asia-Pacific for SITA. Thanks for joining me in conversation.
Thank you, Matt.